AITA for getting a DNA test after my wife insisted on her ex being our son's godfather? I'm 35 years old, an electrical engineer, and I work for a major utility company here in Austin, Texas. I make a good living, around $100,000 a year. I own my own home in a quiet suburban neighborhood south of the city, which I finished paying off 2 years ago, and until recently, I thought I had a solid marriage. I was married to Danielle for 5 years. We met at a cousin's wedding. We fell in love quickly and got married a year after we met. She worked as an elementary school teacher at a private school near our house. Everything seemed perfect. 8 months ago, our son Elliot was born, or at least, I thought he was our son. The first years of our marriage were good. Danielle and I got along well. We had our routines, our plans. We would take a trip once a year, usually to Florida or maybe a long weekend in New Orleans. On weekends, we would visit her family out in the hill country or my folks here in Austin. When Danielle got pregnant, I was overjoyed. I always wanted to be a dad. We prepared the baby's room. We went to all the OB/GYN appointments and bought everything we needed. I was present for every moment. The birth was complicated. Elliot was born via emergency C-section after nearly 15 hours of labor. I was there holding Danielle's hand, crying when I heard my son's first cry. The first few months were tough, as they are for all new parents. Sleepless nights, diapers, crying, but I was happy. I would come home from work, and the first thing I did was hold Elliot. I sang to him, talked to him, told him about my day. He was my son, or so I believed. Looking back, there were signs I ignored. Danielle was very insistent that her ex-boyfriend, a guy named Adrian, remain a part of her life. We've been friends for years, she would tell me. We ended on good terms. There's nothing weird about it. Adrian would show up at her family birthdays, at gatherings with friends, even at the baby shower. I tolerated it because I trusted Danielle, because I thought if she said they were just friends, it was true. I was so stupid. Everything exploded 3 months ago, on a Thursday night. Elliot was 8 months old, and we were planning his baptism. My family is traditionally Catholic, so the baptism was important. My parents had already booked the date at St. Christopher's Church downtown, and the reception was going to be at their house. That night, Danielle and I were having dinner while Elliot slept in his room. She was on her phone, as she often was lately, when she suddenly put it down and looked at me seriously. "Hey, we need to talk about the godparents." Of course, I was thinking of my brother Marcus and his wife. "What do you think?" Actually, I already had another idea. "What is it?" "I want Adrian to be the godfather." I froze with my fork halfway to my mouth. "Adrian? Your ex-boyfriend, Adrian?" "Yes. He and I are very close. He loves Elliot very much. He would be perfect." "Danielle, he's your ex. I'm not making your ex-boyfriend the godfather of my son." Her expression changed. It went from neutral to irritated in a second. "Why not? Adrian is a great person. He has a good job. He's responsible. He would be an excellent godfather." "Because he's your ex. It's uncomfortable. It's weird." "No, you're being ridiculous. Adrian and I broke up more than 6 years ago. There's nothing between us. We're just friends." "Then let him be your friend, not my son's godfather." And that's when she said the sentence that broke me. "If you don't agree to Adrian being the godfather, it's because you don't really love me. It's because you don't trust me. If you loved me, you'd accept this without making such a big deal." I just stared at her, at that blatant, shameless manipulation. "If you loved me," as if love meant accepting anything without question. "I'm not going to discuss this right now," I said, getting up from the table. "What is there to think about? It's simple. Do you trust me or not?" I went to Elliot's room. I watched him sleeping in his crib, so small, so innocent. And as I looked at him, a question began to form in my mind. Why was Danielle so desperate for Adrian to be the godfather? Why was it so important to her? I didn't sleep that night. I tossed and turned, replaying all the times Adrian had appeared in our lives. The time Danielle insisted on inviting him to our wedding, even though I didn't want him there. The time she would coincidentally run into him when she was out with her friends. Her insistence that he come to the baby shower. The photos on Instagram where he appeared holding Elliot with a huge smile. And now this, wanting him to be the godfather. I'm not a jealous man. I never checked Danielle's phone. I never forbade her from seeing anyone. I never questioned her when she went out. I trusted her. But this situation made no sense. What married woman insists so strongly that her ex-boyfriend be her child's godfather? What woman uses the "you don't love me" threat when her husband says no? Unless, no, it couldn't be, could it? The next morning, while Danielle was asleep, I Googled DNA tests in Austin. I found a private lab that offered paternity tests with results in 5 business days. The cost was about $400. I didn't say anything to Danielle. That same day, during my lunch break, I went to the lab. They took a saliva sample from me and explained how to take the baby's sample with a special swab. That night, while Danielle was in the shower, I took the sample from Elliot. He didn't even wake up. I put the swab in the tube they gave me and hid it in my briefcase. The next day, I delivered the sample to the lab. The results will be ready next Friday, the receptionist told me. 5 days. 5 days to find out if my life was a lie. Those 5 days were the longest of my life. I tried to act normal. I went to work, came home, played with Elliot, and had dinner with Danielle. On the outside, everything was the same. On the inside, I was dying. Danielle kept pressing about the godfather. Have you thought about what we talked about? I'm still thinking. What's there to think so much about? It's just a godfather. Give me time, Danielle. Adrian asked me if you'd decided yet. I told him you probably had. He's very excited. He's excited to be the godfather of a child that isn't his. Of course. He loves Elliot very much. He adores him. The way she said it, he adores him, with a strange smile on her face. With each passing day, I became more convinced that something was very wrong. I looked up pictures of Adrian on social media. He was a 37-year-old guy, tall, dark-haired, with a beard. He worked in real estate. He posted pictures of cars, trips, and parties. And then I saw something that made my blood run cold. A photo from 2 years ago. Adrian on a scenic overlook, smiling. The caption read, "The Hill Country will always be my favorite escape." The Hill Country, the area where Danielle's family lived, the place she went alone to visit her mom at least once a month. The pieces were starting to fit together in a way I didn't like. Friday arrived. My hands were shaking when I walked into the lab. The receptionist handed me a sealed envelope. "Do you want to review it here, or would you prefer to take it with you?" "Here is fine." I sat in the waiting room. There were 2 other people there, but I didn't see them. All I saw was the envelope in my hands. I opened it, read it, and my world fell apart. Conclusion: the alleged father, my name, is excluded as the biological father of the minor. The probability of paternity is 0%. 0%. Elliot was not my son. I just sat there, I don't know for how long, minutes, maybe an hour. The receptionist asked if I was okay. I didn't answer her. When I could finally move, I walked out of the lab and sat in my car. And there, alone, I cried like I hadn't cried since I was a child. I cried for Elliot, for the 8 months I spent caring for him, loving him, believing he was mine. I cried for myself, for the betrayal, for the lies, for the lost years. I cried with rage because Danielle had been playing me for a fool this whole time. And then I understood everything. That's why she wanted Adrian to be the godfather, because Adrian was the real father. She wanted him to be present in his son's life. She wanted to normalize his presence, to make me accept him as part of the family, without me knowing the truth. The baptism, the godfather, it was all a way to give Adrian an official role in Elliot's life. And I, the idiot, was going to finance everything. The party, the gifts, the life of a child who wasn't mine. I stayed in the car for about 2 hours, thinking about what to do. Confront her immediately? Wait. Talk to a lawyer? First, I decided to do things the right way. If I was going to tear my marriage apart, I was going to do it with all the evidence in hand. I wasn't going to give her any opportunity to manipulate the situation. That afternoon, I looked for the best family lawyer in Austin. His name was Jonathan Pierce, with 30 years of experience. The initial consultation cost $500, but I didn't care. I explained everything to him. I showed him the DNA result. "Sir, you have several options," he told me. "But before anything else, we need a second test," this time court-ordered. "The test you did serves as an indicator, but it has no legal validity. We'll need to do this formally. Let's do it. You also need to decide what you want to do with the marriage. Divorce, a lawsuit for damages. Everything. I want everything." I waited 2 more weeks before confronting Danielle. In that time, my lawyer prepared everything. The divorce petition, the request for a judicial DNA test, and a lawsuit for financial damages due to paternity fraud. Because yes, that's what it was. Fraud. Danielle had made me believe Elliot was my son so that I would pay for everything. The house, the bills, the baby's expenses, all with my money to raise another man's child. The day of the confrontation was a Sunday morning. Danielle's parents had come to pick up Elliot to take him to the park, as they did every Sunday. It was the perfect opportunity to talk alone. When they closed the door, Danielle sat on the sofa with her phone. As always, "We need to talk," I said. "Have you decided about the godfather?" Adrian asked me again yesterday. "Yes, I've decided. Adrian is not going to be the godfather." She sighed dramatically. "This again. I already told you. Adrian isn't going to be the godfather because Adrian doesn't need to be the godfather. He already has a role in Elliot's life. He's his father." The color drained from her face. "What did you say?" I took the envelope from the lab and put it on the table in front of her. DNA test. Probability of me being the father, 0%. Elliot is not my son. She grabbed the envelope, opened it, and read the paper, her hands trembling. This has to be wrong. Labs make mistakes. They make mistakes. That's your defense? They make mistakes. It can't be. Elliot is yours. Danielle, stop lying. I know the truth. I know about Adrian. I know you never stopped seeing him. I know your trips to the hill country weren't just about visiting your mom. She started to cry. I can explain. There's nothing to explain. You were unfaithful. You made me believe I was a father when I'm not. You used me to pay for another man's son. How long were you planning to keep up this charade? I love you. What happened with Adrian was a mistake. It happened one time. One time? Danielle, the baby is 8 months old. When was this one time? A year and a half ago. And you never thought to tell me? She had no answer. My lawyer acted fast. The following Monday, Danielle was served with 3 things. First, the divorce petition on grounds of gross misconduct, adultery. Second, the court-ordered request for a DNA test to contest paternity. Third, the lawsuit for financial damages, demanding the return of all the expenses I had incurred for Elliot since his birth. Danielle and her family went crazy. Her mom called me, crying. "How could you do this to my daughter? How could you abandon your son?" "He's not my son, ma'am. Ask your daughter who the real father is." I hung up. Her dad came to my house to threaten me. "Are you going to withdraw those lawsuits, or are you going to regret it? Get off my property before I call the police." Danielle's friends posted on Facebook that I was a heartless monster abandoning his family over a piece of paper. I didn't respond. My lawyer had told me not to post anything on social media. Anything I said could be used against me. Adrian also tried to contact me. He sent me a message that said, "Hey man, we can sort this out without courts. Let's talk like men." I replied, "Talk to my lawyer," and blocked him. The judicial DNA test was performed 3 weeks later, this time with legal protocol. Samples taken by a certified expert, a documented chain of custody, everything by the book. The result came back in 15 days, identical to the first. Probability of paternity, 0%. With that result, my lawyer filed the motion to contest paternity. The process to remove my name from Elliot's birth certificate had officially begun. Danielle tried to negotiate. She sent me messages offering to start over, go to couples therapy, and forgive each other. Forgive each other. What did I have to be forgiven for? She also tried emotional manipulation. "How can you do this to Elliot? He knows you as his dad. You're going to traumatize him." That part did hurt because it was true. Elliot knew me. I had held him, fed him, and cared for him for 8 months. To him, I was his dad. But I couldn't keep living a lie. I couldn't raise another man's child while that other man existed and was probably still seeing my wife behind my back. The divorce was faster than I expected. In Texas, when there is proven gross misconduct, the process can be expedited. The DNA test was irrefutable evidence of adultery. Danielle had no defense. Her lawyer tried to argue that I had implicitly accepted paternity by signing the birth certificate, but my lawyer destroyed that argument. My client signed the birth certificate under deception. The mother knew the child was not my client's and deliberately concealed that information. That constitutes fraud. The judge agreed. The divorce decree included several things in my favor. Danielle was not entitled to alimony because the divorce was her fault. I got to keep the house 100% since it was my separate property, paid off before the marriage and in my name. The car, which was in her name but which I had paid for, was disputed. I eventually let it go. It wasn't worth fighting over. The lawsuit for financial damages is still in progress. My lawyer calculates that Danielle owes me around $50,000 in expenses for the pregnancy, birth, pediatrician, diapers, clothes, and all the costs I covered believing Elliot was my son. I'll probably never see that money. Danielle has no way to pay. But the point isn't the money. The point is to have a legal record of what she did. The paternity challenge was also resolved. My name was removed from Elliot's birth certificate. Legally, I am no longer his father. The space where my name was now says Father Unknown, although we all know who the real father is. Update: it's been 3 months since all this started. The divorce is official. The house is mine. My life is starting to be rebuilt. As for Danielle, poetic justice has been brutal. She moved in with Adrian. It lasted exactly 6 weeks. It turns out Adrian wasn't the mature, responsible man she thought he was. When he found out he would have to pay child support for Elliot, when he realized raising a child cost real money, when Danielle showed up with her suitcases expecting him to welcome her like Prince Charming, he fled. He literally moved to Miami for work and stopped answering her messages. Danielle had to move back in with her parents, a 30-year-old divorced woman with a baby, living in the bedroom she grew up in. Her parents, who at first blamed me for everything, now barely speak to her. The shame of knowing their daughter had been unfaithful to her husband and made him raise another man's child was too much for them. Her job situation also got complicated. The private school where she taught decided not to renew her contract for the next school year. I don't know if someone said something or if they simply didn't want her around after the scandal. I don't care. The friends who posted that I was a monster now avoid her. It turns out that when they learned the full truth, several of them had husbands who might feel uncomfortable around a woman who got confused about who the father of her child was. Adrian was eventually sued for child support. The court ordered him to pay around $800 a month for Elliot. He appealed, lost, and now it's deducted directly from his paycheck. I hear he's around Miami telling people he was ruined and that Danielle was a crazy woman who trapped him. 2 horrible people blaming each other. How poetic. And how am I doing? Honestly, I'm not okay, but I'm better. I lost 5 years of my life with a woman who never respected me. I lost 8 months believing I was a father when I wasn't. I spent money, time, and emotional energy on a family that turned out to be a lie. I still think about Elliot. Sometimes I wonder how he is, if he's walking yet, if he's saying his first words. I know it shouldn't matter. Legally, he's not my son anymore. But feelings don't understand legal papers. The therapist I'm seeing tells me it's normal, that the grief for a child who was never yours is real, that it's okay to feel sadness, even while feeling rage. What I don't feel is regret. Some people have told me I was too harsh, that I should have forgiven Danielle, that I should have accepted Elliot as my own, even if he wasn't biologically mine. No, I will not live a lie to make the person who lied to me feel comfortable. I will not raise another man's son while that man exists and never had the decency to face the consequences. I will not finance the fallout of a betrayal with my hard work and effort. Self-respect also exists, and sometimes self-respect means saying no more. Danielle told me that if I didn't accept Adrian as the godfather, it was because I didn't love her. She was right. I don't love her anymore. And that's okay. Comment: I know this was a difficult story, but I hope you saw the incredible strength it takes to honor your own truth. True self-respect isn't about anger. It's about refusing to live a life built on a lie. It's a reminder that setting firm boundaries is not selfish. It is a necessary act of self-preservation. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is choose yourself by walking away from a situation that compromises your peace. Healing is a complex journey, and it's perfectly okay to feel both grief and relief at the same time. Ultimately, we are all responsible for the choices we make and the integrity we bring to our relationships. May this be a reminder to trust your intuition and to build your life on a foundation of honesty. Your peace of mind is your most valuable asset, and it is always worth protecting. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.